Did you know that it's harder to follow than to lead? Did you know? Is that something that you have thought about? That it's harder to follow than to lead? Oh yes, that is true. And not many people know that, because we're very quick to blame leadership, to make demands from leaders. And we forget that the follower also has great responsibilities. Leading is hard, no question about it. But following is harder, much harder. That's what I'll be speaking to on this edition of Leadership in 30 Minutes. And my name remains Olatunji. I'm your anchor. It promises to be pretty interesting. I guess this is not something that many people would like to hear, but on this program, we deal with the subject of leadership from the perspective only of truth. All right, truth is what you can count on us to deliver on the subject of leadership. At Emet Leadership Academy, we nurture leaders based on truth. So that is it. That leading is hard. Make no mistake about it. But following is harder. It's much harder. Following is harder. And so I would ask you, most of us are more followers than we are leaders. So it's a good question to ask. Have you ever thought that following is harder? Have you ever looked at yourself from the point of view of living up to a higher responsibility as a follower than as a leader, than what you are expecting, all right, from your leader or of your leader? Yes, the truth is that most of us as followers are falling short in the area of responsibility. We fail to take responsibility. Our eyes are all on the leader. And we believe that since the leader is the one ahead, since the leader is the one we are following, therefore the leader must do everything. And it is true. To walk in the shoes of a leader is not piece of cake. That's a favorite statement I make. Leading is not piece of cake. All right? Sitting or standing in a leadership position is not by any means piece of cake. But as much as that is true, what about following? All right? The relationship between a leader and the follower is not a one-sided one in terms of responsibility. The truth is that to make meaning of that relationship, both parties must live up to their responsibilities. All right? And I guess the way that God has structured it is that the responsibility given to the leader is hard enough for the role of a leader. And the responsibility given to the follower is hard enough as well for the follower, for the role of the follower. The question is each one focusing on their responsibility? Is each one, all right, doing the needful from a responsibility standpoint to ensure that the relationship works? Or is one committed to doing his or her responsibility while the other is shirking their responsibility? Or perhaps, worst of all, both parties, leader and follower, are not living up to their responsibilities. I mean, that's a state of disaster. That's a state of disaster. Today, it is fashionable, all right, for us to continue pointing accusing fingers at leaders. Their job is hard enough. But the follower is not without responsibility. And the job of the follower, I guarantee you, is harder. In fact, most followers fail in their role as followers than leaders fail in their role as leaders. Does that surprise you? Okay, why is leading hard? Let me lay a few things on the table for you. Why is leading hard? Let me start by sharing with you, all right, something that the follower thought. There is a follower who was attracted to the trappings of leadership. And so, he ran to the leader and said to the leader, "Sir, I'm going to follow you anywhere you go." Out of excitement, exuberance perhaps, all right? Motivated by the trappings, maybe the authority, all right? Maybe, the privileges that he or she thought the leader was enjoying, as is the case with many of us and many of those who look up to leaders. What they see at the cars, what they see at the homes, what they see at, the retinue of, assistants and, the dressing, the outlook. Want to be like that. Substance, because substance is not that great, doesn't look that great. So this leader said to the exuberant guy or follower, he said, "Well, let me tell you something." He said, "Foxes have holes and birds have their nests, but guess what? The leader has nowhere to lay his head." There is great discomfort for leaders in that role as leader. Great discomfort. So the leader was drawing the attention of this exuberant follower to the fact that is not as rosy as you think. There is great discomfort, all right, in this role. The leader has nowhere, a true leader has nowhere to lay his head. All right, he can adapt to any situation. He's not demanding in terms of comfort and all of that. That's not what leadership is about. That's what the follower was looking at. He got himself all mixed up, and the leader had to quickly call his attention that I don't know what you see. I suspect that you are looking at what you think, the paraphernalia of office, but don't look at that. Look at the substance. Leadership involves great discomfort. True leadership involves great discomfort. And what many see is the form. What they don't see, unfortunately, the substance. And that's what matters most. A lot of the leaders you believe to be enjoying just because of the cars and the dresses and all of that and the money that you probably think you see, if they're true leaders, all of that does not excite them, because they also know the burden that they carry, the discomfort that they experience as a result in that of sitting in that role. All right? Why is leading hard? That's one of it. Let me draw your attention to another. It's great sacrifice is involved. Great sacrifice is involved. One of the illustrations that I have come to learn about what leadership entails, which I wrote in my book, by the way, all right, is found in a statement that Jesus made in John 12 and verse 24. And he said, "Look, truly, truly, let me tell you, listen to what I'm about to say, because the emphasis is important." He said, "Except a grain of corn or a corn of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it abides alone. But if it dies, it will bring forth much fruit." That tells you the great sacrifice that leadership entails. You are in the role of a true leader. You are doing leadership right. It necessarily makes a demand on you. A great sacrifice is entailed. It entails great sacrifice. Of course, the discomfort is part of it, but it's more than that. Look at what it says. The corn of wheat or the grain must fall to the ground and die. That is, the leader, a true leader, who is doing it the way it should be done, gives himself in totality. Now, I often teach people that what the leader has to offer is none other but himself. That's your greatest value. That's what you are called to do. Is to give of yourself, is to replicate your capabilities, the things that make you tick in the lives of others. That's the calling. Now, the thing about that is that you have to do it in totality. When you take a seed and you plant in the ground, without the seed being completely submerged, it has no hope of delivering any impact, of generating any harvest. No hope. It must fall to the ground and die, give up itself, lay out himself or herself as a leader for the followers to pick whatever it is that they want, that they see, that they find attractive. That's it. No leader is expected to hold back. It's not easy for the seed to fall into the ground and die. Who wants to die anyway? Who wants to die? Those things you are eating, those habits that you are enjoying, something had to die in order for you to enjoy them. In order for the follower to live truly, the leader had to die. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard. All right? And leaders walk in love, by the way. Love is supposed to be, that flagship character attribute that you bring to that responsibility. But hear what Jesus said. He said, there is no greater love than for a man to die for his friends. No greater love, to give his life for his friends. That's what leadership entails. Isn't that hard? It is hard. It is hard. It is hard. Let me show you one more reason that leadership is hard. One more reason that leadership is hard. Now, a time came when the leader was teaching very important lesson, and he was revealing himself, which is what a leader is called to do. All right? True leadership is about you revealing who you are. That's part of the way you give of yourself. That's not the subject, of today's session, but look forward to it. Okay? Because that's the code about leadership, is giving of yourself in totality. All right? Now, so this leader was teaching Jesus, by the way, and he was saying, this is who I am. I am this, I am this, I am this, I am this. And when a leader tells you that, he says, this is what you should look forward to getting from me. This is what you should hold me accountable for. This is what I'm responsible to deliver to you. Those are good leaders. And when you have a leader, you should look forward to them, all right, delivering that. You should look forward to hearing that from a leader. Leaders who are not afraid to hold themselves accountable to the follower. That's hard also. It takes a lot of humility. So it's hard. But that's not even the hardest part. The hardest part is this. And after he said all of that, you know what the people said? You know what the followers said? The followers told him, he said, this is a hard saying, who can bear it? He said, this is a hard saying, who can bear it? This is a hard saying, who can bear it? I mean, this man, the leader, was telling them the truth. The leader was doing exactly what he was called to do. The leader was showing them who he was and what he had on offer, to them as followers. And they were saying, what you are telling us is too hard for anyone to embrace. At the end of the day, they walked away. And the leader told them, I have not even told you the real hard parts of who I am. But what I'm still telling you is they're like basic truths and you can't handle them. What if I tell you the hard parts? What are you going to do? And unfortunately, they couldn't handle it. They went away. They left. They stopped following the leader. That's hard. That's disappointing. You are giving your best to the people and they are turning their backs on you. You see leadership? All right. Great expectation. You have great expectations. You are putting everything in. You are giving yourself. You are dying, as it were. And the people are saying, what kind of thing is this? The people stopped following him for telling them the truth. They stopped following him. They couldn't bear it. So they wanted leadership that would be false, all right, that they would embrace in comfort. It doesn't happen like that. It doesn't happen like that. So on the part of the leader, wow, this responsibility is hard. I mean, I'm doing my best. What more am I supposed to do? And look at the people that I'm giving myself for, that I'm bearing discomfort for, that I'm sacrificing for, and they are turning their backs on me. They can't handle the truth. Well, the reality of leadership. That's the reality of leadership. But you can't give up. In spite of that, you cannot give up. You must acknowledge, of course, that they have their choice to make. It's not by force for anyone to follow. It's the decision of the follower. Who you choose to follow is your decision. And therefore, you're going to take responsibility for whatever outcome you realize. Okay? So I've shown you the hard parts. I mean, just to give you an example, 3 hard things about leadership. Let me show you why following is harder. Following is much harder. All right? Why is following harder? Because up till now, we have carried on as if the leader is the only one to blame. The leader is this, the leader is that. And we have followers who refuse to take responsibility. And while we're at it, taking responsibility is not by protesting, okay? But, if you know, you know. It's not by protesting. You need to be more intelligent in the way that you relate with leadership. Too many times we sit in a place and we are thinking, ignorantly about what the other side entails. And we don't know what the other side entails. Many do not understand what leadership is all about. Okay, let me give you 2 aspects that illustrate the fact that following is harder. Do you know what the leader wants from the follower? In order for that leader-follower relationship to serve its purpose, to benefit primarily the follower than the leader, do you know what the leader requires? Do you know all of the things that the leader is trying to do to secure from the discomfort, from the sacrifice, from, telling the truth and giving of himself? He wants the commitment of the follower. He wants the follower to commit. I love what Solomon said and showed, very deep secret about the leader-follower relationship. He said, my son, give me your heart. Give me your heart. Give me your heart. So in actual fact, when Jesus was saying to his disciples, follow me and I will make you. All right, look at the exchange. Leadership is an exchange. Follow me, and there's a precondition. For me to make you, you have to follow me. And that's where the problem is. What does following, true following means? It means that you are submitting in full obedience. It means you are trading off your independence, your control, and you are putting it in the hands of a leader to turn you into whatever the leader determines to be valuable. To be a more valuable personality who is able to get more things done, who is able to add greater value to others and to the society. That's what leaders are called to do. But this is a very demanding, request or demand, if you like. Give me your heart. That's what Solomon's, my son, give me your heart and let your eyes observe my ways. That's leadership. For the leader to give you what you want, you have a role to play as a follower. You must enable the leader to do his job. How do you do that? You give the leader your heart. You are fully committed to following, to collaborating, to cooperating, to supporting the leader. And in the process, you observe the ways of the leader, how the leader gets things done. Observe the conduct of the leader. You observe the behavior of the leader. You observe the skills of the leader. You observe the strategies of the leader. You listen to the words of the leader. And if the leader has panache, you observe it also. All of them are important in order to deliver on that role. Why is following harder? Because it is harder for you to give your most prized asset to anyone. The leader, the heart, is what the leader is asking for. That's your most valuable asset. That's your most valuable asset. He said, guard your heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of your life. That's the counsel. Solomon also said that. And he also said, it is that heart that you are meant to guard with all diligence, because it determines your life. It determines what you experience in life. It determines how your journey would look. That's what a man or a woman as leader is now asking you to give them, to submit it to them so that they can do whatever they like with it, presumably in your best interest. And that's where many fail. That's what many followers cannot bring themselves to doing. It's hard. It's very hard, and it's harder than the job of the leader. It's much harder. It's much harder to submit yourself. That's the process. That's the problem that many people have. A lot of times when people complain about leaders, they ought to ask themselves, how much cooperation have you extended to the leader? How much collaboration? How much support have you extended? because it's a prerequisite. A leader cannot affect you positively, nay, cannot deliver on his or her mandate without your cooperation. Indeed, without submission. And that means expressing faith in the leader and obeying whatever the leader demands of you. We want to eat our cake and have it. We want to hold on to independence and still expect the leader to perform magic. It doesn't happen like that. Leaders are not expected, should not make any attempt to deliver any mandate, any result, any impact without the submission of the follower. What a leader needs to do is to convince the follower as much as they can that they mean well and they should submit. But the follower should never expect that they're going to have it their way. You want the benefit of the leader, and you don't want to embrace the leader for who he or she is, you are joking. Whoever receives a prophet in the name of a prophet, that is, as a prophet, that's the only person that can realize the benefits that the prophet has to offer. Whoever, just in case you think that that's religious talk, well, if you receive a leader, that's what that counsel is saying. As a leader, you position yourself to realize the benefits that leaders have to offer. Receiving a leader as a leader is precisely what Solomon is saying. Submission. You submit yourself. You submit yourself. There are no half measures. Those guys couldn't submit themselves to Jesus because they felt that he was telling them truth. What he was saying was too hard, and they walked away. Who were the losers? Was it Jesus? No. They were the losers. They were the losers. They were the losers. I mean, guess what? Others who did not leave, guess what they said? When Jesus told his other 12 people, he said, you guys can leave as well. It's not compulsory that you follow me. All right? It's not mandatory. It's your choice. And they told him, we're going nowhere. Yes, your words may be hard, but we know that those words are words that will change our lives. And we want to keep hearing them and keep submitting to them. That's what following entails. It was hard enough for the leader to present the truth because many of us don't want to hear the truth. But it's harder for the followers to embrace the truth and to line themselves up with it. Yet, that's what it entails. That's part of the code of leadership. Stop expecting magic from a leader to whom you refuse to submit. Don't expect magic. Submission is not going to be is going to be tough. You will submit, and the journey with the leader will still be tough. That's why Jesus told that guy, look, there's a rough road ahead. You want to become like me? There's a rough road ahead. There's a rough road ahead. Let me show you the second, something to further buttress that. I love a parable that Jesus spoke in Luke 28. And, basically, actually in Luke 12, not 28. And is the parable, I call it the parable of the, I call it the parable of the tower project. Many of us know it. And, Jesus made a statement before he spoke the parable so that you understand the reason why he was speaking the parable. And this was what he said. He said, look, whoever wants to be my disciple, that is, whoever wants to follow me, must be aware that there is a condition. He said he must leave father, leave mother, leave sister, leave brother, leave everyone, including himself. Including himself. And take his cross and follow me. That's tough. He said you must hate father, mother. That hate is not hatred as we know it. It simply says you have to put the leader as first priority in your life. You have to place the leader in a special place in your life. You can't relate with the leader like any other person. A leader requires full commitment. And then he told them to illustrate the importance of what he was saying. He spoke this parable. He said, so which of you wants to build a tower and will not first sit down to count the cost? It cost hugely to follow a leader. He said, which of you will sit down first? That proverb, that parable came as a result of a leadership lesson. He was saying, you want to be my disciple, you want to follow me. All right. You think when I said follow me and I will make you, that it was that simple. No, the following, let me tell you what it entails. It entails a huge responsibility. And of course, and unfortunately, many don't want to take it. We don't want to take the responsibility, but we want the leader to perform magic. It does not happen. It's a precondition. Follow me and I will make you. You want to benefit from a leader, you must follow the leader. And that's not something that's going to change. That's the nature of the relationship. You can't expect to get anything if you are not putting in anything. That's fraud. For you to expect a leader to show up for you, to deliver accordingly to you, you have to put in something. What are you putting in? Many of us need to ask, what are we putting in? To give the leader the empowerment to do his job, which is hard enough. What are we putting in? You're not putting in any. Sit down and count the cost is what we are required to do. If you really have what it takes to follow, if you really have what it takes to follow, that is, you want to follow a leader, you want to benefit from a leader, you do it intentionally. You sit down and you find out, what does it take? What does it entail? And you convince yourself that, yes, I can do this. And then you follow. And when you are following, notice that you counted the cost. You committed to doing it. So make sure that you do it, you give your all, and you give it well. It's only after that you can now start complaining about some leader and all of that stuff. But that's not what many of us can do. We're not ready to do that. And it's because it's hard. It's because it is hard. It's because it's hard. And some will start it, and then when they discover that, wow, this thing isn't working quite, as we thought, then, they renege. They renege. So that should drive the point home that it's harder to follow than it is to lead. It's harder to follow than it is to lead. Let me give you icing on the cake. Interesting. Ideally, A good leader would have been trained by another good leader. A good leader would have been trained by another good leader. So in order for you to become a leader, you have already paid the price of following. You already know what it takes. You already know what it takes. You have done the harder work. That's why you are able to lead today. That makes your ability to lead easier. Your ability to get that job done in your leadership role is easier because, of how you got to that position. It's different for the follower. It's different for the follower. One thing is needful for a follower, and I would end with this, that you need to believe in your leader. You need to act. You see, this leadership relationship must be conducted on the basis of faith. You have to trust your leader. You have to believe in the best that the leader has to offer. You have to give the leader an opportunity to prove what he can do. If you are expecting a demonstration before you commit, that won't cut it. It's one of the reasons why Jesus said, an adulterous generation, they're the ones looking for signs and wonders. They want him to prove who he is before they submit. No. Part of what leadership entails is that you choose to believe the leader by submitting and giving him the privilege. You can always rescind your decision, your commitment. You can withdraw it. Okay? But if you want the leader to convince you first to follow, then you have it all mixed up. At the time, Jesus said to the people, follow me and I will make you. And they stooped up and followed him. They didn't know what they were going to get. All right. In the sense that, yes, it was a promise. But was he going to deliver on the promise? Well, they didn't know. But they trusted him nonetheless. They believed in him nonetheless. All right. They believed in him nonetheless. And that's very clear. John 1 and verse 12. It says, to as many as received him, he gave power to become sons of God. That is products. His products. It takes receiving and believing in your leader for you to benefit from what the leader has to offer. So that's Leadership in 30 Minutes today. And we have been talking on the subject, leading is hard, but following is harder. It's much harder. Followers need to take responsibility in that leader-follower relationship. It's the burden is not just on the leader. There's a heavier burden actually on the follower. And that burden is the commitment to actually follow. Many times we don't follow leaders. We don't truly follow leaders. We don't commit to them. We don't cooperate or collaborate with them. We're only expecting to enjoy the benefits of their leadership. We only do that out of ignorance or out of mischief, because that's not how leadership at any level is supposed to work. That's it. I hope that, is worth your while today. And I hope you would use that, in all your efforts to do leadership right. My name remains Olatunji Shobodu. Join me again next week, first on Leadership Mondays, and then on Leadership in 30 Minutes. And I'll be speaking to yet another important issue on the all-important subject of leadership. And if you haven't subscribed, all right, go ahead and do that and share the link, all right, with others. Let others benefit from the program as well. We all need leadership wisdom. It's time to stop pointing accusing fingers at others and start developing ourselves, so that in our current leadership positions, we can be the kind of leaders that we want, all right? And stop, as it were, get off the path of hypocrisy onto the path of authenticity. If you are not developing yourself to be a leader, what right do you have, all right, to call out other leaders, people who at least have put themselves forward to see what they can do? Okay? God bless you, and see you again next week. And thanks to everyone that joined me live. Let's meet again next week by the special grace of God. And happy new month, by the way. Happy new month. God bless you, and bye-bye.